It's time for Radio Blab with Master Mel, the radio video podcast brought to you live. Join host Melodee Meyer and her special guests as they discuss personal mastery and what it takes to create a life you want in a body you love, doing work that matters. Here's your host, Master Mel.
Yay! Here we are. Finally, Diane, I get to meet you after all the messaging going back and forth. I'm so excited because I fell in love with you. I feel like I already know you. I know you don't know me.
No, I feel like it's great. It's great. I'm really excited too. Thank you for having me.
Well, after reading your book, I feel like I know you quite well because you know what I loved about your book, Standing Strong, is that you really opened yourself up. I mean, I was quite impressed with how vulnerable you were in this, in telling your story, and just how direct and really open you were. And especially in the martial arts industry, I don't see that a lot. Right?
Well, exactly. And you know, thank you for saying that because I felt that was a really important aspect to have in the story because as women, a lot of times we are vulnerable like that.
Well, I want to introduce you to the audience that we have here live on radio and on Blab. And I want to make sure they know who you are and why we're going to be speaking today and what we're going to be speaking about. Because this is a really interesting topic, and I've been talking about this in social media now for a couple of days and been getting a lot of interesting responses. So what we're doing today is we're talking with Diane Reeve. This is Diane Reeve. You can see her right there. She is a mother and a grandmother, is a 7th Dan black belt, who owns a martial arts school and has done so for over 20 years. In 2014, she was inducted in the Masters Hall of Fame. And last year, she was named USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame Taekwondo Female Master of the Year. Yay. Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The reason why she's here today is because she has written a book about her story. The book is called Standing Strong. We'll be talking a little bit about this book in a little bit. But really what brought her national attention was a court case that really made history. And it was because of, and I'm going to let her tell the story, but really she was infected by a boyfriend with HIV, and she was able to prove, along with a bunch of other women, that this was intentional, that he actually knew he was spreading this, and he was doing it intentionally. So it's a crazy story. It seems so unbelievable. And what was interesting as I was reading the book, Diane, is I couldn't put it down. And I really haven't had that experience since I read, like, the Da Vinci Code. One chapter really led to the next chapter, which was very, very exciting. And, like, I just couldn't wait to know what was going to happen next. Even though I knew the story, I couldn't wait to hear what you had to say about it. So why don't you start at the beginning and tell us really how this all started?
How it all started was the dissolution of my 18-year marriage. And I didn't really want to do much with relationships, but a couple of friends convinced me that I was much too young to give up on love, and that the way to meet men, and I don't go to bars, the way to meet men now, the new thing is online dating. So here I go into the online dating world, and after a couple of years, I was pretty jaded. It's a labor intense and low return on investment kind of a process. And then, right before I was fixing to shut down, along came this handsome Frenchman, and he reached out to me, and we emailed back and forth, and we talked on the phone back and forth and went through all my preliminary steps for safety that I have in place. Met for, afternoon drinks and chatted, and from there we started seeing each other and fell in love. 3 or 4 months we were exclusive.
Well, it sounds like a typical, wonderful relationship. Like, that's the beginning of so many people's stories. how they spend some time together. They meet, however, a lot of people online. In fact, I forget what the statistics are now, but a lot of people are getting together online, right? It's not abnormal at all anymore. And you got together and you clicked and the energy was there and you fell in love. That's pretty typical so far.
Sure. Sure.
And a
Right.
Frenchman, no less. And I saw a picture, very handsome.
That's tall, dark, and handsome, classic, very soft-spoken, very charming, very polite. And, you know, I was at a point in my life where my daughters were grown, so we started traveling because I love to travel, and we went all over the world. We went.
How long ago was this? How long ago was this?
We started dating in 2002.
2000. So you
Right.
already had a martial arts school.
I had, and he was into martial arts as well. So that was another thing that we had. Right.
So what I want people to understand here is that you weren't like, you know, sitting around at home, didn't have very much experience and kind of more that what we would consider more of a victim mentality. You were a very powerful woman, a business owner. You knew all about self-defense, about taking care of yourself, safety, all those kinds of things. I mean, you would not be what I would call typical victim material.
Correct. In most areas of my life. However, as you know from the story, there's that one area where my capability kind of took a little bit of a dip.
Well, we're all vulnerable. We're all vulnerable, right? We have our strengths and we have our vulnerabilities. And when it comes to love, I think we are more exposed, right? I mean, I think everybody has some sense of what it is to be vulnerable in a relationship, for sure.
Well, you have to be in order to be in a relationship, I think.
Right, exactly. So you were together for over 4 years.
Correct.
Did you live together?
We didn't live together 7 days a week, 24/7. He had a house, I had a house. We had kind of a routine. I had my business. I, run the business for martial arts is a pretty good sized job. And I had plenty to keep me busy. I do have a family, although my girls are grown. But we would spend, 3 nights a week or so together. Either my house or his house. So we were together a lot.
And it was fine, right? I mean, it had its ups and downs like every relationship.
It does. I had kind of a mountaintop experience with him that really kind of sealed the deal with me when we were in the French Caribbean island called Guadeloupe. And then I had to return the favor due to some things that happened on our way back in. So you can read all about that in the book. I did catch him cheating and confronted him and said, we're not going to do this anymore. And we put it behind us. And I thought it was over until the day of my daughter's wedding.
This was such a sad part of the book. I mean, the whole wedding, I mean, something that should be one of the happiest days of your life as a mother, and then breaking up with your long-term boyfriend is pretty horrific, yeah.
It was, and of course now, the whole thing is now burned in my memory. But after the initial breakup, it always went back to that night when he called me and said, "I'm not feeling well. I can't go to dinner with the family." He was calling from the cell phone. My red flags went up all over the place, and I caught him.
Yeah. So you guys split up on that day, right?
We did.
Did you see him again after that?
I saw him again to exchange. I had a bunch of stuff at his house. He had a bunch of stuff at my house, and so we exchanged our boxes full of stuff, and that was it.
Okay. So then you didn't have anything to do with them anymore.
I did not.
And that must have been hard for you after years of being in love and all of the good things.
Right. And I went into a pretty deep depression afterwards.
I bet.
Because I had thought he was going to be the last love of my life, and he almost was.
Yeah,
right?
And not the best way.
Yeah, not in the best way.
Because tell everyone what happened. I mean, I'm asking leading questions because I've read the book, and I
Sure.
know what happened, but why don't you tell everyone what happened then?
All right. 2 days after we had broken up, I had a regular office visit scheduled with my doctor, a well woman visit, and I got some news from her a couple of days after that that I was going to be required to have some surgery because I had precancerous cells from the Pap smear, and I said, "Well, I have no cancer in my family. How could that? I mean, I don't understand that." And she said it was because of the HPV. And I said, what?
What age?
And I was like, wait a minute, rewind. I'd never had that before. I knew I'd only been with him for the last 4.5 years. And so I thought, oh, that's just great. Now I have that on top of the breakup and the last love of my life. And I was really, really concerned about cancer, possibly cancer. Don't particularly relish the thought of having surgery. But I had talked to already a couple of women, or I had heard their voices on his voicemail. And so I knew that there were other women involved. And, just as a person who to me would be a normal reaction to let other people know, then I did that. I said, it's kind of weird, you call up somebody that is seeing your ex, and you say, I've had this issue, and I want you to get your Pap smears every year and be sure you're taken care of because I don't want the same thing to happen to you. And some of them were very angry, some of them were very grateful, some of them said,
You contacted them about HPV then?
Correct.
Right.
And I had a cell phone records because I was paying for a cell phone with the business issue. So just pretty.
You just started calling to let them know that they could have HPV. Which, for those of you who don't know what that is, sexually transmitted disease that does actually lead to a lot of cancer.
Sometimes it does. And one of the women was very curious, and so she wanted to meet me. And that was a little bit of a heart palpitating moment, but I thought, well, okay. And we met and we talked, and I explained the 4.5 year relationship. And I said, look, and she's still seeing him. She'd been seeing him the same time that I was. In fact, I found out that he was seeing quite a few women besides me at the same time. And
heartbreaking, like on top of everything else, to then find out all the layers, just how deep the deception was.
It was heartbreaking. It was gut-wrenching. It was astounding that he could have pulled something off like that. And did I feel like the stupidest person on the planet for not knowing? But you have no idea how good he had gotten over the years in being able to manipulate the situation.
Yeah, this wasn't something new for him. This
No.
This was a way of life for him.
Correct. So she and I talked. She said, well, he had told her about me. And so she said, well, I'll think about it. And I said, you do what you want to do. I'm just giving you a heads up, and I'll let it go. And 4 months later, his cell phone rang, and I had kept his cell phone. And it was the health department leaving a message for me on his cell phone. And I didn't understand that, but I had had a whole lot of health problems from the time that we broke up until that point in time when I received that phone call. And there was fatigue, there were funny blood work, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on, and it was all very mysterious. And I was sliding, and I didn't know whether to attribute the fatigue to the depression or to the age or to what. So when the health department call came in, all the alarm bells went off, and I scrolled back through the phone, and she was the last one that I talked to. So I called and I said, Susan, this is Diane. We met a couple of months ago. I just got a call from the health department. What can you tell me about this? And I can still cry right now telling you what she said. She said the 4 words that nobody ever wants to hear: we need to talk. And when she said those 4 words, I put together the health department, my symptoms, and what she said. And then she told me that she had been diagnosed with HIV. And I knew. She'd only been with him for about 1.5 years, and she had kicked him to the curb before she got tested. But then after she got tested, she gave his name to the health department, but my name too, for which I'm grateful because she saved my life.
Right. Well, exactly. It's not something people in a relationship with one person even considers that they would get, right? I mean, it's not even on your radar.
Exactly, perfect, exact thing that I was thinking. It was not on my radar screen.
Yeah. So you formed quite a relationship with this woman.
I did. Yeah. In fact, I told her that I was going to go get tested. And 2 days later, my doctor told me that indeed the test had come back positive for HIV. And after I balled up in the floor and cried for a day or two and told my family, I called her back. And I said, I have it too. And she said, well, I've just talked to him. And he had a very strange reaction when I told him. And this, I mean, you know, I cried, she cried. I cried some more. We talked, she cried some. And then we got to this conversation. And he had specifically said to her, you know, everybody dies of something. Why don't you just go on and live your life? And we both thought that was a little bit of an odd reaction to find out that somebody that you had been seeing in a sexual relationship for 1.5 years had that reaction. And then we got mad.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, that's the thing. It's one thing to really hurt someone, but especially you. I wouldn't want to see you in that.
That's funny. That's funny.
All that power, but all that power directed, for in the way that it needed to go in order to be able to create some traction, especially on top of you being sick as well. I mean, that's this to me, the story is really a hero story, and you're the hero, by the way, in that what you had to overcome just to get it to where you did with him being finally, put in jail, that you not only all the investigative work you did to find all the other women that you could, which you were relentless, I don't know if anybody's ever told you you're like a pit bull.
I've been called several things.
I bet. But the tenacity that you had to have just to, even if you'd been healthy, but then to be experiencing all your health issues, plus still having to run a business because you have to have income, all of those things, just incredible odds you were against, and you just kept going. What was it that gave you that? I mean, sure, I understand the anger and almost revenge part of it. That's something we can all identify with. But what else could possibly give you the motivation to just keep going after this day after day? Because you were literally working on this. It reads like you were doing it daily.
Pretty much 24/7. Yeah, we were stalking. We were, I hate to say, going through trash cans. We did some bizarre things. But, and I've thought about what it was that was driving me. I, in my mind, never had a choice. To me, it was a life and death matter, because if, HIV is not a death sentence, and I'm not saying that. But if you don't know that you have it, like I didn't know that I had it, and I think that I had it for probably most of the 4.5 years, because after I got the HIV diagnosis, then I was diagnosed with AIDS, as you know. And so I thought, if somebody else doesn't know and they don't get treated, they're going to die.
Yeah.
And I could not sit back and let that happen. There was no way I could let that happen to anybody else. I just wasn't going to do it. And I was also thinking about the other women that he was out there with. And I thought, they're putting their lives at risk every time they pull into his driveway.
Well, how did you finally know that he was doing it intentionally?
There were a couple of things. First of all, excuse me. First of all, he said to Susan, they had a couple of screaming matches. I never talked to him. I played it low key because I did not want him to know that I was positive and that we were teaming up. In fact, I felt like we were actually putting our lives at risk, because if any of the women had told him, he would have no doubt come after us. But, I thought, I have to get this done. I have to get this taken care of. And he had said to her, oh, they'll never find a common denominator. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know you have it. And I had been, working with a woman at the health department and, giving her names off his cell phone records and all. And she mentioned something that started making me think about a instance in 2005 where he complained of kidney pain. He had had kidney stones before. And we had two problems that we had to prove. First of all, we had to prove that it was him, okay? And the police officer basically told us, the prosecutor won't take a look at your case unless you have 3 victims, 4 victims, 5 victims, then maybe. So that's for the reason for the sleuthing. But the second thing is we had to prove that he knew. And, just from the conversation, that wasn't going to do it. We knew we had to have medical records. HIPAA laws keep us from getting anything from health department. But I rewound to that one doctor's office visit, and I had paid for that visit with a check for him because he didn't have health insurance and he wasn't working at the time. Sent him to the doctor with a check, came back, got a call from the doctor's office and said, we need to have you come back in for another visit. And I said, why? And he said, I don't know. And I knew that they had found something. They had to have found something. If you have negative test results, they don't call you in, they call you over the phone. Everything's fine, right? So he would not let me go to the doctor's office with him. And I said, well, I'm pretty nervous about this, so I'm going to sit in the parking lot and wait for you. And when he came out of the doctor's office, he sauntered up in his usual swagger, rolled down the window of my car. He was not flushed. He was not sweaty. He was not nervous. He was his happy-go-lucky self. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, everything's negative. I'm fine. And I said, oh, you don't have cancer. You don't have high blood pressure. You don't have kidney disease. You don't have HIV. You don't have anything. And he said, no, I'm HIV negative and everything else is negative too. And so when I remembered that, I thought, I wonder. So I called my office manager from the school and I said, do we still have those checks from back in 2005? And she said, yeah, they're in her garage. I went, oh, you got to help me find them. So then we madly tore through 15 boxes looking for checks. And when we came up with the checks, I knew we had him because the prosecutor subpoenaed his medical records and they proved that he was told that day that he was positive. Do I think that he knew before then?
Yeah. He knew before, but that's what you could prove.
Right.
That's what you needed, really, right? Was to be able to prove that he knew from that day.
Right. All right.
So how do you wrap your head, like, how do you explain it? Like, do you believe that people are evil, that there are evil people, or do they just do evil things? Or how do you explain how someone could do that? How do
you asked the $64 million question that I had been asking since the time that I got my diagnosis. Why? I asked, why me? I asked God, why me? But I continued to ask myself, why would he do this? And I rewound through everything that he had told me about his childhood, about his difficult time in life. And I started to see the pattern of sociopathy. And my belief is that there are people out there that are sociopaths, that some of them are very good at not being recognized and hiding that, that they're a narcissist, and that they flat just do not care. The best thing that anybody ever said to help my healing process was the prosecutor. We were preparing for trial, and I had tears streaming down my face. And I said, "But Lisa, why? Why would he do that?" And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, "Diane, there is no why." And that was the first thing that ever made any sense to me, that there wasn't really an answer.
Yeah. I think we tend as humans, and especially as women, we want to know those whys, and we want to have a deeper understanding, and we want to be able to sort of put it in its own box and then go, okay, that's why, and then we can wrap our healing around that. But to not have that and just go, whoa, like, did it, and does it to this day, does it make you more suspicious of people? Like, do you look for that now, or do you think you really can see this for what it was? Is this one particular
instant? Interesting that you asked that, because I always tell everybody that and this is on me, this is on me, but this was a pretty big betrayal. Something that was life altering. And I have not been able to bring myself to trust anyone since then. And I feel like that hurt me personally as much as the virus did physically. In other words, I resent him for preventing me from ever trusting somebody just as much as I am angry about the HIV. And I've let go of the anger. But
yeah, the anger isn't going to make any difference to him, and it's only going to hurt you. For sure.
It's like taking poison every day and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah, exactly. So you get to live with that. Well, what is the, I'm not familiar anymore with what living with HIV is like now. What is it like?
Well, you're going to get two stories from that. You're going to get the story that the pharmaceutical companies want you to see, that you can live well with HIV and that you take a pill every day. And they do have treatments now that are one pill a day, and that there are very few side effects too. And so that it's just like any other chronic manageable disease. It's the same as diabetes or anything else. The people that are living with it will tell you a little bit different story. Yes, it has come a long way. And yes, we are very, very fortunate to have the one pill a day thing, because when I started, we didn't, and it was pretty nasty. And I had a lot of side effects. And through the years, I've had side effects until I've gotten on this final medication that has come out recently. But the other thing is that you live with, I don't, but a lot of people live with a fear of stigma, a fear of being judged by everyone. A lot of people don't disclose at all, or to maybe one or two people in their lives. It's pretty unique for somebody to disclose on national television. If I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it right. But you live with that. There are body shape changes in some cases due to some of the medicines, and there's still fatigue. There's still some of the effects of the virus that you have to live with and work around. I'm back kicking.
More, huh? Literally.
And gardening and loving my family and doing all the things that a normal mother and grandmother would do. But, some days are harder than others. So welcome to the world.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you want people to learn from your story? What is it that you hope when somebody reads your book or hears the story even here on this show, what do you want them to take away that they can apply to their own life?
I think the first thing I want them to take away is, you know this in martial arts as well as I do, is the indomitable spirit, that you don't stop. You know, you fight with your last breath, whatever it takes. You overcome the obstacles and you get it done, no matter what. No excuses, no runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on base. You're going to get it done. And people can do that.
So do you think indomitable spirit is something that you were born with and then you develop more over time? Or do you think that things have to happen for you to develop it? Or is it something you can, buy at 7-Eleven? Or how does that work?
No, it's Starbucks. Starbucks, right? It probably is a combination of a lot of those things. I don't think heroes are necessarily born. I think they are made. I think there has to be something original there to work with. Some people are just not cut out that way, and if they're not, there's nothing bad about them. It doesn't mean that I'm all great and wonderful and they're not. It just means that we're different. Okay, and I had this opportunity, and I wasn't gonna pass it up. If you'll remember in the book, the first thing that he did the next morning after he was arrested was call me. And his last words.
And you hadn't talked to him in how long?
Oh, 4.5 years. 4.5 years. Well, other than we did a fake phone call with the police to see if we could get him to admit before I remembered the checks and the doctor's office visit. And he said very few words to me in that conversation. There were a lot of words in the next one. Please, you're behind this. Please get me out of here. And the burden.
Did he say he was good?
No, he never admitted. He never admitted ever to anybody that I know of.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an indomitable spirit of a different kind, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the sociopathic kind. I'm not remorseful. In fact, I don't know if you have been following on my Facebook page, but the Crime Watch Daily aired an episode about my story a week ago or so. And they interviewed him, and he totally blamed it all on me. He said, no, I was the one that transmitted to him. In spite of the fact that we found a woman that had acquired HIV from him in 1997.
Oh, man.
And he didn't want to explain that.
He didn't know how to rectify that.
Right. But the thing he said to me that really burns in my memory is, you'll never be able to live with yourself if you do this to me. And I just shot, if I could have been an award-winning screenwriter, I could have never written a better line. And I said, Philippe, I could not live with myself if I don't do this.
Yeah, he thought he knew you pretty well. And but he didn't understand what he helped create, really, by that. Can you tell us, and I can make all the speculation because I'm, of course, very familiar with martial arts, but could you tell us how your martial arts training might have helped develop that indomitable spirit so that you knew what you had to do when it came time?
Sure. You know about martial arts. I know. For those that don't, there are a lot of different kinds of martial arts. I am in Texas, and if you know who Bill Wallace is, Bill Wallace said the point in Texas karate is like capital murder in California. So we have I came up in a pretty tough system. I was the first woman that my instructor promoted to black belt, and he'd been teaching for 20 years. So I learned a lot about indomitable spirit and martial arts. I have told more than one person, had it not been for me being a black belt, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. That black belt is what I at times held on to. I'm a black belt. I can do this.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people don't understand about martial arts. They think it's about kicking and punching, and really it's about character development and learning, and you finding out really where your limits are or aren't.
Exactly. Perfectly put.
Yeah. So you were in martial arts. You've been doing martial arts for how long now?
Since 1985.
Wow. How long is that?
That was before Beyonce, 31 years.
Before Beyonce. Oh my gosh. That's the new BB.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. So in those, and you've had a school for 20 years. So how did this whole thing affect your school? I can't even imagine. I have no idea. And you don't actually write too much about that. You talk about some support and so forth, but what happened at your school when people found out about your diagnosis and about really how you had been duped by this person? Because they all knew him too, right?
They did. Right. Well, there was a process that I went through during the whole situation that got me to the place where I was ready to deal with it. After I cried for a couple of 3 days, after I told my family, then I called in my best friend and told her, and she's actually one of my black belts. So I had the support there. And in the meantime, 2020 had gotten a hold of us after he was arrested and started to prepare to do the show. So I spent a lot of time working with the producer at 2020. And of course, they had told us that we could use pseudonyms like we did at trial, like they do for sexual assault victims. And they said that, they do disguises for us. And it's just not me. Courage is doing what's right, even though you might be afraid. And I already knew at that point in time that I needed to be an advocate and give people a voice that didn't have a voice. And if I hid behind a disguise on national television, I was a fraud. And I struggled with it. The first thing that I did before we got to that point is look up in CDC and see if there were any sports transmissions of HIV. And fortunately, there has never been a documented case of sports transmission. Thanks to Magic Johnson for plowing that trail for us all. But after that, I thought, I'm going to do this, and I'm risking losing my business. But I teach courage for a living, and I cannot be something that I'm not. And, I did tell a couple of my long-term black belts, pretty shortly into the situation. Everybody else, of course, was worried. And I said, I'm too mean to be sick, and kind of played it off for a little bit. And then when it got closer to the 2020 episode, then I called everyone and said, this is coming out.
Did you have a meeting or what? How did you get the word out?
I had to do due diligence, actually, because I didn't know if, I knew that he had been with one of the students at the school, one of the adult female students at the school. So we sent out letters to everyone that had been a member of the school for the last 4.5 years since he'd been there, to let them know about him. I waited until the 2020 thing for everybody else to find out. And I knew that it was all in the news. It was all in the headlines. And I had one dad who called me and said, I just don't want to take the risk. I'm pulling my daughter out. I had 225 students and I lost one. And I'm really so grateful for that, for everyone standing behind me. And, I don't know if I put this in the book or not. I was sitting behind the counter at the school one day, and one of my dads and my little dragons, my 3 and 4-year-olds, came through and had his fatigues and his combat boots on, and he walked around the counter and he said, "I just want to shake your hand." And I said, "Well, thank you." And he said, "No, really." He said, "I found out about what you did and what happened to you." And he said, "I just got back from Afghanistan and you're the bravest person I know." And it still makes me cry.
Well, you are incredibly brave, and it's the courage you had to have on so many levels. Like I've said before, not only you discovering this for yourself and what it means for your business and what it means for your love life and your whole future that you had all planned out, what it was doing to you physically at the same time. I mean, it was just every aspect of your life was, mowed down all at the same time. It's incredible that you had the fortitude to be able to not only put him behind bars, but to then continue to excel and inspire other people. It's really amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And out of all of this, I guess the support that I've received during the thing has kept me alive. It's kept me going, because people have been, other than one comment that went on national television, I'll tell you about that. But other than that, everybody has been so supportive, and people will come and hug me, and I couldn't ask for anything more kind and more caring of people to do that for me. And I'm very, very grateful and humbled by how nice they have been. Except if you want to hear something tragic / funny. And the other women were hurt by this, and I kind of laughed it off because, my philosophy is what other people think of me is none of my business. But when the story broke, Sean Hannity had been referring to the program, to the story, and made the comment, "Are these women really victims, or are they deserving whores?" And yeah,
Who said that?
Sean Hannity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm like, well,
Comments like that say more about the person that said that.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the ladies that I met, and actually she's really precious, and she gave me a quip that I use it all the time. You can't fix stupid.
Exactly. But it's not even worth even saying anything. It's like, whatever.
No, it's not worth responding to.
Right. Exactly. Well, this show is about personal mastery, about life mastery, and I'm always educating people about mastery because, well, for one thing, when I'm called Master Mel, I actually had a problem with that for the first couple of years because I felt like I was anything but a master. I was still trying to figure everything out. And when I really learned what mastery really was about, it was about an intention of really being in the moment and getting the most out of this moment. It's not about a destination, about a place where you arrive and you go, I'm the master, but it's more about experiencing and always wanting more, even in the moment, like getting to that next level. It's a pursuit, but without an intention of acquiring anything. And when I think about mastery, and I think about the many guests that I've had and that are coming, it's so exciting to me to find out from each of them exactly their little secrets to their life mastery. And you have really demonstrated mastery in this way, and your tip really about indomitable spirit and about watering that, about how can we take that just another step further for people? It's like if somebody goes, wow, I wish I could be like her. I wish I could do that, but it's already too late. I can't get 30 years of martial arts and kind of idea. What can people do to start really developing in themselves that kind of will-do spirit? Is it an attitude? Is it a decision? Is it a commitment, or is it character? Where do you think that comes from, and what can people do?
Well, I think you described it perfectly. I think it's being in that moment. If you live in the past, you're nowhere. If you live in the future, you're nowhere. You have to wring, I almost got a picture of wringing every last drop of life out of each individual moment. And I think that the martial arts obviously is a big part of that. And, I know that people may not be at an age where they think they can get 30 years out of martial arts, but it's never too late to start. And, right?
Yeah.
I say in my school, it's ages 3 to 83.
Well, we don't even have enough time to really talk about your project, Date Stronger, the website, but I want to make sure that gets out to people. In fact, I'm going to put it here in the message box.
Great.
It's datestronger.com, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And for those of you that are on the program, either here in Blab or on the radio, you want to check out this site, datestronger.com. And it's a site that Diane has helped put together to really empower people, it's particularly women, right? Exactly. And you can get more information about her and what she's working with and how she is being of service to other people to make sure that this does not continue. This kind of behavior doesn't continue, of course, but victimization of any kind needs to just stop, and she's a big part of it. So thank you so much, Diane. Why don't you tell us about this song that we're going to close up with here, and what this song means for you?
This song is the name of this song is Unbroken. It's by Desiree Sierra. And I was fortunate enough to have an instructor-student relationship with this young lady who's very talented. And the parents have been so very supportive and had offered, when they heard my story, to have this song written for Desiree to sing. And I went to a professional production company at their, due to them, because of them, at their request, told my story, and the result is this beautiful, beautiful song that is designed to be empowering and inspiring and go out there and conquer the world.
Okay. We're going to end with this song. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here. Again, my name is Melodee Meyer, also known as Master Mel, and you can find me at mastermel.com. And we'll see you next week at 3 o'clock, where I've got another really special guest to share with you. Thank you so much for being with me, Diane. We'll just go out with this song, okay?
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
You gave me hope that my time would come, that you can give me truth, that you could be the one. You chose me, I fell into your trap, forever intertwined. You held me within your grasp. Now I see who you are and I see what you've done. All you've come to think you already won, but I have a message, I'm burning your truth. Do unto others what's been done to you. I'm broken, a spirit higher than the sky. I'm broken, who let my life pass by. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm broken, I will never fall. Even still, it took up all I had inside to raise my voice to you, to swallow what you left of my pride. A victim I'm not, and I want to be played. I'll be the beacon of truth. I'll fight weapon, had new more half of the same. I took on my shoulders the burden and pain, but I have a message, I'm burning your truth. You must do unto others what's been done to you. I'm a spirit higher than the sky. I'm unbroken, who let my life pass by. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. Broken, I will never fall. I'm broken, I will never fall. I'm broken, I will never fall. My perception was wrong, I'm still standing strong. Cannot take me along, I'm still standing strong. My perception was wrong, I'm still standing strong. That cry in my song, I'm still standing strong. You gave me hope, and my time come. That you can give me truth, that you can be the one. I'm unbroken, my spirit's higher than the sky. I'm unbroken, who let my life pass by. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. I'm still here, I'm standing strong. Broken,